But now I want to go back to 4th grade Ashlee that was struggling with reading and spelling.
Ashlee Poor did not learn how to read until she was in the 4th grade.
I did not want to be called on in front of the class. I sure didn't want to have to read a passage, especially when they would popcorn read. And so I hated, I would be so anxious, I would sweat, I would get a nervous stomach, I would ask to leave the classroom to go to the restroom or to the nurse. I was embarrassed, I really was.
Now an educator with the Royce City ISD, she has dedicated her life to helping students who need extra guidance with literacy.
Then I started taking a concentration in early childhood development and learning how kids thought, how kids think, why they act the way they act.
She is a dyslexia therapist in the district, and her recently published children's book, The Letters That Dance.
How does it feel, everything that you've gone through in life, and you write a book and now you're helping other kids? And you're help shaping their future.
It's kind of surreal. I'm very proud of it. I'm probably gonna get emotional.
Okay, Miss Ashlee, got you on the podcast. I like to always start off with something fun, and these are. So you love to read, right?
I do love to read.
You love to read. So these are essentially a lot of the building blocks to reading.
Yes, sir.
So I would like for you to pull from, obviously you're dyslexic. I would like for you to pull from that, because dyslexics, you can simplify complicated things and stuff like that. I want you to also pull from the fact that you're a teacher, and I want you to pull from the fact that you are a dyslexic therapist, and just like simplify, kind of talk about which ones you think are maybe more important than the others, or just anything that jumps out at your mind, like a typical thing you see kids struggle with, just anything you want to share.
So you asked me which one was more important than the other, and I would say that they're all equally as important. They're all foundational blocks. I think our kiddos have the hardest time with fluency, which is the rate of reading, and comprehension. So some kiddos can read just fine, but they forget as soon as they're done what they just read. And so those are the last components, and also with spelling. For dyslexic kiddos, spelling is the hardest, for me, in my personal opinion, that's one of the hardest things that they grasp at the very end of therapy.
So the thing, even when I was kind of explaining some different things at the beginning, like I just saw like your mind, you just had this big smile on your face. So one thing that I like to show is that when I have guests on that are dyslexic and just people that are in the neurodiverse community, I just want to showcase you all's confidence, because you were smiling and everything like that. But now I want to go back to 4th grade Ashlee that was struggling with reading and spelling. Talk about how confident you were then.
I would say I was not confident. I would do anything in the world to please my teacher. I did not want to be called on in front of the class. I sure didn't want to have to read a passage, especially when they would popcorn read. And so I hated, I would be so anxious, I would sweat, I would get a nervous stomach, I would ask to leave the classroom to go to the restroom or to the nurse. I was embarrassed, I really was. And I didn't understand why it was so hard for me, because I knew in 4th grade, you know, kindergarten, 1st, 2nd, you don't really notice differences between your peers, I don't think, as much. And even as a teacher and adult, I don't think kids grasp that. But by 3rd grade, you kind of can tell, you know, who's struggling, who's not, who's the smart one. You get all those I'm gonna mess up a bunch. You get all those.
I'm gonna mess up right with you. We both dyslexic together.
You're gonna get all these labels, and so I knew that I wasn't the smart kid, and I was also the poor kid, and so when that kind of combination, you don't feel very confident. School is torture for you.
Okay, so Miss Ashlee, was there a moment growing up where you felt misunderstood And now looking back as a therapist, how would you reinterpret that?
Well, I would think early elementary, it was hard for me, you know, and the teachers obviously didn't understand, and I didn't understand.
Okay.
My mom didn't understand. So as a therapist, I think that I would give them the tools for parents to understand, like, hey, this is what's going on with their brain. This is how they learn. This is what you can do at home, because that is a vital part as well as them going through therapy, is that the parental involvement at home. And then, you know, looking back, I wish that I would have those tools or just the knowledge to help me in there. But I think as a therapist, that's what I try to give my kids to empower themselves now is, you know, how to overcome those things.
Okay. There was a parent-teacher conference. Was it still in the 4th grade?
It was around the 4th grade, kind of like the middle, I think.
Okay, parent-teacher conference, and because of your reading and spelling, different things like that, did the teacher tell your mom that you were lazy?
The teacher told my mom she didn't understand what was wrong. She said, you know, like she didn't call me lazy, but she was like, Ashlee is being lazy with her studies.
Okay.
And so, but that was so hurtful to me because that's what the teacher thought about me. And I was a kiddo that wanted, you know, I needed praise from everybody. Just kind of growing up in the household that I did, there wasn't a lot of praise. So at school, I could get it. And so when she said that, it crushed me. I was embarrassed. I was, you know, and then my mother was like, Ashlee's not lazy. What are you talking about? And so she was like, well, she kind of showed her my spelling test. She showed her my reading test, all those kind of things. And I wasn't passing. And I was decent at math. I was decent at science. And I loved history. But I wasn't passing any of that stuff. And so mom was like, well, we're going to fix this. I'm not going to have a lazy child, you know. And so we went back and she took every storybook that we had. And I remember her drawing these lines and these words. And I thought, what is she doing? And that's how I learned how to read. And we would sound out, you know, a, and you know, like all of those things. And and that's how I learned how to read. And it wasn't fluent. It wasn't good. It was choppy. But I could actually do it, and but that took a long time for me because, you know, it wasn't just learning letter sounds; it was learning words blending. And so that's also how I learned how to spell. And so moving forward, I never did good on when you have to write an English paper or something because my spelling was atrocious, atrocious.
Okay, so a lot of people in the neurodiverse community feel stuck, not because of lack of ability, but because they internalize certain labels. So like even like when you were in the 4th grade and not being called lazy, but being called lazy at the same time. So where do you see the most harmful beliefs that kids may have?
I think even to this day, some of the teachers, if you talk to them, one of my biggest pet peeves is I don't like anybody to be called lazy because the kiddos aren't lazy. They just, you know, some kids want to please and they'll try to do whatever to make that teacher happy. But some kids also shut down. And when they shut down, there's a reason. And so let's find out what's going on with that student before we call them something. As far as helping those kiddos, there's a reason for why a kid does every single thing they do. And so we just have to find that and get them going and get them believing that they can overcome and do anything, because that a lot of dyslexic kiddos, they lose the confidence in themselves, and that is what we build. And
so you're the oldest sibling in your family. You have 4 younger brothers and 2 of them are dyslexic.
Yes.
There is an unwritten rule and standard in families where you're the older sibling. You and especially if we zoom in school, there's an unwritten rule and standard that you have to be the smartest because everybody's looking up to you. So growing up, did you ever feel like you had this extra weight on your shoulders because your younger brothers were looking up to you, or how did you feel?
There was no grace. The expectation was you were going to bring home A's, and it better be a struggle if it's a B. And you better be trying your hardest. There was no, like I said, grace given that reading was hard for me. Oh, well, you know, that's what you're going to do.
Right.
I think my brother's kind of got some leniency
Okay.
that I was not afforded
Yeah.
because it was a little bit harder for them. But
Okay.
also I think I'm about 10 years older than all of my brothers.
Okay.
And so I think dyslexia was starting to come a little bit more normal.
Right.
And by normal, I meant more knowledge was out there.
Right.
And so then my parents understood.
Okay.
And I think a lot of time, especially in our generation and even before, parents didn't quite understand, you know, you went to school, you learned, and you excelled. And that was the expectation, that was the rule.
Right.
And if you didn't, they didn't know how to help you.
Gotcha.
And so I think they had a little bit easier.
Okay. Yeah.
Because of
You were
me.
the guinea pig. You're
Yes,
the guinea
sir.
pig. If you could sit down with your younger self that was struggling in the 4th grade, what would you tell young Ashlee?
To not give up. Don't listen to what they're saying. To keep that grit, keep that strength, keep trying. And that, man, the ride is pretty good. So
Yeah.
to keep doing it.
You know what? Something I want to ask you in that, and I want to challenge myself to do this more with guests, because as dyslexics, we're really good for like having the grit and the toughness. But how important is it for us to just I don't want to say necessarily embrace how we feel, but just to allow ourselves time to feel?
Yes. I think that we have to do that because if not, we're so hard on, or our hardest critiques.
Yes.
We know that we're different. We know that we learn differently. We know what our weaknesses are. And so I think I still struggle with self-doubt.
Right.
You know, I feel silly when I talk about my book, even though I did it and
Right.
I've won awards. I still, in that back of my mind, I think that seed is planted, you know, just to have self-doubt on yourself. And so we have to give that up. It ain't easy.
Yes.
It'll probably always be there.
Yeah.
But we need to give ourselves grace to learn. And so I think that is something that a lot of dyslexic people, adults, don't do. They don't give themselves grace.
Okay.
Because how can you overcome anything if you don't allow yourself to learn first?
Yes.
And you're gonna you know, make mistakes. You're not gonna do it right. It's not gonna be perfect. But when it finally does,
Yes.
you know, you build that confidence back.
Okay. This is going to be a big turning point, and it's going to be a lot to unpack in this stage and age in your life. So you graduate high school, you enter into college for just 1 year.
Yes, sir.
You step back away because you were pregnant. Okay. And I do want to highlight too, your mom and dad, they did not get a high school.
Yes, and I cannot remember if it was, you know, which one did which, but one did not finish 9th grade and one didn't finish 10th grade.
Okay.
They were both high school dropouts.
And the reason I want to highlight that, because that's going to play a role in once you did go back to college. So you step away from college for a year, and I want to put a pin in this moment because somebody can like do a movie on you or something like that, because I want to read some stats. So approximately 30 to 50% of students who take a break from college and later return end up graduating, with the success rate heavily dependent on completing 2 years prior, but you only completed 1 year prior. So while roughly 53% to 60% of students who stop return within a year, the likelihood of graduation decreases the longer they stay out of college. And you were out for what, about 10 years?
Yes, sir.
So that in itself is amazing that you were able to do that. Like, where do you think that strength and that resiliencies come from?
I think I've always been a high achiever, and we'll probably talk about that with dyslexic brains. And I say this, but I think I'm probably twice gifted, is what we call kiddos that learn how to cope and move on. And so I'm the person, I am up for anything. You tell me I can't do it, I'm gonna prove you wrong. But I knew from an early age that I did not want to be a product of my home. So that was a big driving force as well. William and I, my husband, had our son in high school. He was 15 months old when we graduated, but I graduated with a 4.0. And that's something I'm very proud of.
Yes.
And then I went to college, and life was hard, and so I stopped. And that was something I'd promised myself when I got pregnant, was that I wasn't going to give up anything. I was going to give my son the best life, and I wasn't going to have any regrets. And I knew that I would stop there, and that was hard because I felt like I had failed.
Right.
But that was life.
Right.
You know, family came first at that point. And so I worked for the district that I still work in now. And just being around educators and education and all the fields, I knew that I could do more. I knew that I had more to offer. I didn't know how to do it. And I think that's why I waited so long. I also, I had a daughter in that time. And, you know, when you have littles, it's just hard. You're second. And so once they got old enough, I felt that I had the time to kind of go back and explore. And I love to learn. And so I fell in love with it. It was something that came easy to me after struggling for so long. And I was like, give me more, whatever I can learn. And I'm still that way today. Whatever I can learn, I'm constantly like, you know, let me do it. I want to explore it. I want to live it. I want to, all the things.
So after being out of college for about 10 years, you come back, and I want you to tell the viewing audience and everybody what happened with this English essay that you turned in.
So I was so excited to go back to school, and you know, took my first class. I did all the things. I thought I can do this, and I also felt differently about college because, you know, when you come straight out of high school, I don't think I valued it very much.
Exactly.
And so going back as an adult, you just have different perspective of what you're doing and your
Yes.
goals and all that kind of stuff. So I was really excited to do it.
Okay.
And I wrote that first English paper because in school, if I had to do an English paper, I could tell somebody my story. I could come up with a story. I could write it down, and they could write it down for me or give me a good outline, and then I could kind of fill it in. That was kind of how I got through like English in high school. But they sure don't do that in college, right? And so I was kind of shocked about that. So I typed up this paper, and I'll be honest, I probably didn't give it as much time to edit like I did back in high school. Because I used that dictionary and the thesaurus like crazy. That's how I did it.
Okay.
And so I sent it in. I was like, okay, I did this, you know. I did it at night. It was late. And then I got that thing back. And she was highly upset. Told me I should not be in college.
Well, first, what grade did you get on it?
Oh, I failed. I mean, it was probably a D and maybe even an F at that point. I think maybe a D. I say a D because I did it. I turned it in.
Gotcha.
But it sure wasn't passing. I mean, there was so many red marks on that paper. I was embarrassed again, and I thought, I know that I'm better than this.
Yes.
And I was like, what do you mean this is wrong? Because in my mind, when I read it, I wrote like I speak, and so which is Texas accent. And so she got on to me about that. She got on to me for grammar because I did not know. I still struggle with you know, where do you put the commas? Or where do you put, you know, I mean, I got the basics, but all those, you know, higher level grammatical mechanics I didn't have. I still don't have. And so she was like, this is awful. You shouldn't be in school. This isn't the caliber that's expected, basically.
Right.
And so I immediately responded back and I apologized. And I was like, I want you to know that I'm serious about this. Can I please have a conversation? And so luckily, I sent that email, or she would have thought that I was just there for the wrong reasons. And so we actually had a phone call, and I told her, I said, ma'am, I'm very sorry. You know, kind of gave her all the background. This is not easy for me at all. And she's the one that said, you know, could you possibly be dyslexic? And I said, no. You know, what do you mean? I'm not dyslexic. My brothers are, but nobody's ever said I was.
Wow.
And she said, you really might be dyslexic. You need to use Grammarly. And thank goodness that I went back to college in a world of technology. And so I subscribed to Grammarly and typed it up. And I mean, still to this day, if I put something in there, it's going to flag 60, 70% errors and to go back and fix them. And so, and that's what I did. And that is how I got through college.
So I want to back up because, like I said, it's a lot to unpack in this situation. So the reason why I brought up your parents not graduating high school is because when you were in high school, when your mom went through spelling words with you, she wasn't teaching you how to spell. She was teaching you how to memorize.
Yes, sir.
So it's kind of like that kind of caught up with you.
So that was another thing when that teacher had told me that, my spelling test I never could pass, never in a million years. I probably still couldn't pass.
But I want to say too, I'm sorry, your mom, she literally did the best that she could.
Yes. And Mama knew that there was a problem, and we were going to fix that problem.
Yeah.
And so, Mom didn't graduate high school as a product of her circumstance, but I really think my dad didn't graduate because he also is probably dyslexic.
Gotcha.
I don't know a lot about my dad, but I know enough to say that I would say that he also has those struggles.
Okay.
And so dyslexia can run in families.
Yes.
And so, for him not getting the help that he needed in school, that caused him not to graduate. And I think there's a lot of people out there from that generation that are probably like that. And that's how I probably still do that test today. Like when I spell together in my mind, when I write it, I'm going to say T, get, her. And I mean, that's how, because it's memorization.
Right.
But when you're trying to spell new words, or you're trying to say new words or put those blends in, and you're just thinking about those memorization, it just doesn't work, and you're not going to spell it right. But I think a lot of dyslexic kiddos, that's something that they can do well. And it's kind of like if you lose your sense of smell, your other senses are going to be stronger. And I think with our brain, the same thing. We're dyslexic, it's hard, but other parts of our brain are going to come in and teach us how to get through, how to cope, how to survive.
Those workarounds.
Yes, sir. Very, very much so.
Okay. Just one more thing I want to cover in this college time with this paper. Did it hurt more the criticism that you received with the paper, or did it hurt that nobody connected the dots that you were dyslexic up until this point?
I think at the time, if I'm honest, it hurt because I'm a people pleaser. I want people to like me. I want I want to do good.
Right.
And so when she gave me those critiques, that was hard.
Gotcha.
That was hard, especially because I was so excited too, thinking that this was my chance, right?
Yes.
And then she tells me that I shouldn't be in college, and that was a hard blow. I'm thankful for her because then it kind of changed my whole trajectory of things. It made sense what she was telling me. I finally thought, okay, well, maybe you're not dumb or slow or there's a problem, that there is something there. And so I would say it hurt after, not to learn I was dyslexic afterwards. And I would say hurt, it kind of made me mad.
Gotcha.
Like, how do we get through kids? I have a master's degree, and how does that happen when you're dyslexic? But I know now through going through my training and learning, that we learn to cope, that we overcome and adapt.
And I also want to add too to that whole situation with the essay that you turned in. That is a life lesson out of that. Oftentimes, because I know you're a woman of faith, oftentimes, which is fortunate, unfortunate, that some of the most beautiful things come out of struggle.
Yes, sir.
So it was that unearthing that happened in that paper that she was like, wait a minute, I think something else is going on.
Yes.
So we was able to look under the layers of that. It's just not a paper that's not good, but there's maybe something else going on.
Yes.
And maybe that never would have came about if
I hadn't done it. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Everything happens for a reason, and it definitely made me value education a little bit more. It also kind of gave me some more self-confidence, that, hey, there is a reason that you're this way. It's not just you.
Right.
There's not a deficit. There's a diagnosis, there's a cause. But I still didn't know back then to go back and get tested. I was just like, okay, this is what it is. I've got to do X, Y, Z to make sure that those papers are correct. Right. And that's what I did. And
so it definitely seemed like you were not going to fall into a stereotype as, oh, woe is me. Because already from elementary school, you were just trying to figure it out with your spelling tests and different things like that. And, us as dyslexics, like we have to figure it out or we're going to get left behind.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I don't believe that in life in general, I taught this to my kids. There's going to be ebbs and flows,
Yes.
and you make the best decision at the time and move forward. But it's never a crutch.
Right.
And so that was always my belief growing up, and I want to be better. I want to do better. I want to learn.
Okay.
And so I think that's what propelled me through all that.
And I want to underscore one thing you talked about. Grammarly was just coming up when you were in college, and honestly, putting this question together, it made me see myself in a new light. Because when I was coming up in elementary school, the reason why I did not use certain assets, because I felt though using tools, Grammarly was a tool, peer editing was a tool that you use. But when I looked at this question for this podcast, I looked at myself, and one of the things that I saw those tools as a weakness.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can understand that.
You know, because I would have the ability to get extra time. Now, I did use that, but I had other resources, like I think they could record, you know, people may not know what this is, record the class on a cassette tape. So different things like that. I never utilized those. So talk to the neurodivergent community. Just anything you want to say, just how using tools doesn't mean weakness.
Oh my gosh. Speaking as a teacher, you know, our brains learn differently. We are blessed to live in the world of technology.
Yes.
And so tools do not do the work for you. Tools do not make your work less than. Tools help you.
Yes.
I mean, we all have the same knowledge. And I'm a firm believer that every kid, if a kiddo can sit there and tell me a story or whatever he wants to answer verbally, he's got the knowledge.
Yes.
I just have to help him get it out.
Yes.
And whatever medium that is. And so why not use it? You know? But I think in your case back then, it was kind of, the expectation was that you should have this. It should not be hard for you. And so if you use those tools, then maybe you're less than. And I think that's a stigma with a lot of students today, because they won't use some of their accommodations.
Right.
And I'm like, but baby, it helps you. Why not?
But if I be honest too, from my own perspective, and maybe this is the case with some other kids and adults, is that it's embarrassing.
It is.
Because when I was coming up in high school, it was called the resource room, and
I remember.
And it's embarrassing. It's like, okay, we're taking a test. Why is Joseph going to this room to take a test, or why does he have a teacher sit next to him? You know, that's embarrassing.
And especially in secondary. So middle school and high school, kids don't want that. They don't want that. And hopefully they've been, they've gone through dyslexia therapy before they get to us. But I teach at the high school, and I have kiddos that are still qualifying, and they're 14, 15 years old. And I have kids that will graduate therapy this year. And so once they realize they can do it and that it's okay to do it, they thrive. But they're not going to maybe use the headphones. And so you have to find the accommodation that the kid wants. And so if they don't like to do the headphones, okay, then what else can we offer them? And not every dyslexic kiddo needs the same type of tool.
Exactly.
Because dyslexia affects different parts. You're going to be stronger, you're going to be weaker in different areas of reading and comprehension and spelling. And so what works for you probably wouldn't work for me, and vice versa. And that is okay. And that's what we have parent nights and things like that, that we want to tell parents that however your kid learns is however they learn. And it does not matter how they get there, as long as they're getting there. And so, but there's kiddos that are in the classroom that don't have dyslexia, but they still learn differently from Sally that sits next to them. And as long as we all get there, that's all that matters.
Okay. So you, like you indicated earlier, you've always worked for the ISD, Independent School District in Texas. What prior to becoming a teacher, what different jobs did you
Okay. So when I was 15, I started working for the district. We had a daycare center. So after school, I would go and worked there for elementary age kiddos.
Okay.
And I had tons of brothers, so that was a great job for me.
Right.
And so I worked there, and I worked with probably the greatest teacher of all time. Her name is Sarah Moss. We have an elementary school named after her. I love this woman. She was a game changer for me.
Okay.
In so many different ways, but she was also my boss.
Name one way that she was a game changer for you.
Oh my gosh, Miss Moss was the parent that I needed when sometimes my parents weren't there, because I had left my mom's house and came to Royce City to live with my dad. And but she also was my home economics teacher.
Okay.
And so she taught me how to sew.
Okay.
I do not sew well
Okay.
at all, but
Okay.
I can do it, and I still have the stocking
Okay.
that I made my son.
Okay.
It's awful. Like, you'll prick yourself. But she was the one that would be like, you can do whatever you want to do. And still to this day, Miss Moss will encourage. She is my number one fan.
That's amazing.
And I mean, that is what a great teacher is that they build the confidence. And I probably would not be as successful as I am if I didn't have Miss Moss saying, you can do it.
That's amazing.
And she did that for so many kids. And I tell her this all the time, and I just love her to death. She's a fantastic woman.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, so you worked for the daycare. What was some of the other roles
So
that you had?
then, after graduation, I went to college, but I still worked there, after I would go to school. But then my father-in-law was the transportation director, and so he said, hey, I've got this mail job. And so I was like, what do you mean mail? So I would do the mail for the district. And so I would go to the post office, I'd sort it, take it to the school, but I also drove a school bus.
Okay.
And so I did that for about 10 years. And so then he retired, and that was probably the funnest job I've ever had.
Wow.
It was doing the mail and driving that bus. But then I worked into being a route coordinator, so you kind of coordinate like new kids coming into the district, that sort of thing. And then from there, I was the supervisor of transportation.
Your story is just amazing. Like, you doing these other jobs for the school district, did you ever think that you would be a teacher?
No, they told me, Miss Moss would tell me, Miss Paula Walker would tell me all the time, hey, you need to be a teacher. And I would say, I don't like children. I cannot. How do you teach a child? What are you talking about? And they were like, Ashlee, please, think about this. It's like, okay. So I would think about it. And Miss Walker did the mail one day, and she stopped me, and she said, Ashlee, I want you to come and just sit in and on a class one time. And she put me in Miss Teresa Atkins' class, and I watched her teach writing. And which, I was shocked that she put me, like you said, everything happens for a reason.
Yes.
She put me into a writing class, and I was sitting there learning, to be honest.
Right.
I'll be honest with you. I was very engaged with Miss Atkins, what she was saying. But I saw the kids, every kid what was shocking to me is every kid in that room, she had flexible seating, which I thought was super cool. Because, in my day, we had to sit in that same chair for 8 hours and not move, right? Don't make I've learned that I'm ADHD, but I know in school I was everywhere in that chair and always getting in trouble. But every kid in that room was learning. And I thought that was such a beautiful moment, because I had never experienced that in a classroom. And I thought, my gosh, she can do this. And so I just watched her and what she did, and I was like, well, maybe I can. Maybe it's not so bad. The kids aren't screaming.
Right.
Nobody's running around crazy.
Right.
Every kid was engaged, and they were all having fun. And that, I think, was so impactful for me. And I kind of maybe started believing, Miss Walker had planted that seed, and maybe it started to grow a little bit. So then I gave it some thought, to kind of research the degree plan, because I'd gone back to school at this point.
Okay.
But I was in psychology.
Okay.
And I did a lot of psychology classes on early childhood development.
What drew you to psychology?
I think because my family is so diverse, I'll say that.
Okay.
I wanted to know why people act the way they act, like what prompts us, that kind of thing. And so that drew to me, and then I started taking a concentration in early childhood development, and learning how kids thought, how kids think, why they act the way they act.
Okay.
I think that helped me a lot looking back
Yes.
for classroom management and kind of learning just traumas or differences, cultures, all
Okay.
those sorts of things. That pathway helped me a lot later on. But I didn't finish the psychology degree because once I got so far, you have to take an internship.
Okay.
And you have to take, it was a year, and I wouldn't be able to work. And
Okay.
we were not financially able to where I could do that. So I thought, I'm going to have to quit again.
Right.
And then so Miss Walker, I went into Miss Walker. She was my sounding board. She was a principal. And I said, Miss Walker, I don't know what I'm going to do. What, what? And she said, be a teacher. And that is why I went into Miss Atkins' class. And so I came back and I said, you know what, I think I can do it. And so the school district let me back then, every Friday, I would get to go into a classroom and observe.
Okay.
I did that for about 6 months.
Okay.
And then it was time for me to do student teaching. And but again, you can't student teach and take off work.
Okay.
But the district allowed me to go in on Friday. I could still work, get a paycheck, go in and do
Wow.
it. And then I alt-started in. So I graduated with a liberal arts degree, but with a concentration in early childhood development.
Okay.
But then I alt-started in, for the state of Texas, any degree, you can take a test and become a teacher.
Okay.
And once I did that, you have to have so many hours. And so that's how I got my hours. And
Okay.
so, I say this all the time, Royce City pretty much grazed me. And so, and they did, and things like that was so, they probably thought it was very minor, but for me and my family, it was life-changing.
Okay.
So,
All teachers and educators all drive the same bus every day, but you all sit in different seats. Your seat was the 6th grade middle school seat. Why did that resonate with you so much?
well, I started teaching, and I taught 5th grade reading, and I loved it. I got to read stories to kids. I really, Frederick Douglass is a quote of his that it said, once I learned to read, I was forever free, and he was a slave when he said that quote. And but for me, in a sense, that was my escape. Once I learned how to read, no matter my circumstance at home, I could go anywhere. I could see anything. I could do anything. And that was my escape. I think that was also my kind of coping mechanism as well. And so I fell in love with books. So then I got to teach books, right? So all my favorite books, I was getting to teach these kids and having insightful conversations. But Royce City did redistricting. And so that 5th grade spot was going away. And they moved me down to 3rd grade.
Okay.
It was COVID year.
Okay.
I could not handle the crying, the body fluids, all the things. It was not for me. And so I begged. I was like, please let me go back up. And there was just not a spot. And they said, but we have a 6th grade spot. And I said, okay, I'll take it. I fell in love with it. That was my place. That was my, my jam. We had a lot of fun in that 6th grade class. I also taught ESL kiddos, which are new to America, so English as a second language. And man, did we learn! So they didn't know a lot of English, and I would translate to their language, so they would see their language in English, and we got it done. But they taught me a lot too.
I was gonna say they probably taught you just as much as you taught them.
Oh, absolutely. And, I never have left my little hometown. And so I would learn about their culture or just something cool. Like I remember, I will never forget this as long as I live. We were talking about, I don't even remember the story, but it was a magazine article. And the article was talking about how the boy rode a donkey into town. And I stopped and I was like, hey guys, I want you to picture this. Can you imagine riding a donkey into town? And this little girl raised her hand. And she said, Miss Poor, that's what we did. And I was like, you were a kid. So we were able to have this conversation and kids were able to relate. And, and I'm, of course then I'm interested. So I'm talking. We probably didn't finish the magazine article that day, but we learned a lot. And one thing that in my classroom, kids know beyond, I don't care their education level. I don't care their behavior level. In my classroom, you are loved and you are safe. Wherever you are at, I'm right there. And so I think once kids know that, they will do whatever you need them to. And they are a sponge for your information
Yes.
and for that. And so I loved teaching sixth grade reading.
Okay,
That
okay.
was it.
Okay. So how long did you do that before you transitioned to becoming a therapist?
I think it was 5 years
Okay.
I was teaching because I'm ending my 10th year as an educator. And so I taught that for about, I would say 5, maybe 6 years we were there. And then my director, Ms. Hope Gaffney, she came to me and she's like, hey, we have a dyslexia opening. Can you do it? And I'm like, Lord, no, I don't know how to read. What are you talking about? I mean, like I am not the person to teach babies how to read. What are you talking about? And she's like, well, you're a reading teacher. I said, yes, but I don't teach them how to read. I don't teach them.
So let me ask you a question. Would you have been content staying at the sixth grade
Oh,
class?
yeah.
Okay. So when this opportunity came up.
I really wasn't looking for it.
Gotcha.
I
Okay.
really wasn't looking for it. I had my master's degree is in educational technology and leadership.
Okay.
And so, because I love ed tech, right? Because that saved me. So anything ed tech I could give to my kids as a tool and make it fun.
Okay.
That's what we did.
Okay.
And so I went to numerous interviews, try to get an ed tech job, and I was always turned down. Always turned down. And that.
Isn't that amazing again? Something that you was trying to do didn't work out, but something that you wouldn't even expect and came up on the other side.
Yes, sir. And so I think it was 3 interviews, and that third time that they told me no, I was really crushed because I had finished my degree, I had gone and done all the everything was checked, and I still was told no, and for whatever reason,
Right.
And the person they hired in my spot, I love her. She's one of my best friends, and she was the best woman for the job. I will absolutely agree with that. But at the time, I was crushed.
Right.
And so I was like, I'm done. I'm not going to go for anything else. Kind of questioning, why I wouldn't got a master's degree, all
Right.
this stuff. When that was not it. And then Miss Gaffney contacted me and she said, I want you to do this. And I was like, no, thanks. I'm good. A few weeks later, I saw.
It's not what I wanted.
Yes. Yeah. I wasn't even. And,
Right.
and then too, it was asinine. I'm like, because in Texas curriculum, you don't teach kids how to read in middle school.
Okay.
Past the 2nd or 3rd grade, they don't go back to reading foundations. They're
It's too late
expected
at
to
that
read.
point.
Yes, sir.
Right.
And so when they come up to secondary, one of the biggest struggles that a lot of teachers will say is that I know this kid's struggling,
Right.
but I don't know how to help them
Okay.
because your concentration is different
Gotcha.
versus elementary school.
Okay.
And so when she was asking me that, I was like, what are you talking about? I am not the one, right? And so she saw me in the hallway and she's like, have you given any more thought? And I said, no, I'm good. She came to me a 3rd time. It's about a month after.
Okay.
And when she did, I remember a sermon when I was in church camp, and I was probably 8 or 9 years old.
You remember that?
I remember that
Okay.
sermon, and I thought, I better say yes.
Okay.
And so I did, and then it's been a game changer.
I'm still just amazed because we talked prior to the podcast, but I'm still just amazed at your story. Just like outside of dyslexia and stuff like that, but just how life works, how God moves and orchestrate things. Because here it is, you're just gun-ho on getting this certain career, and dyslexia coordinator comes to you and say, hey, you ever thought about doing this? And you're like, no, that's not what I wanted.
Yes.
And obviously, as we see through your whole story, like, it's no better place that you would seem like you would rather be than what you're doing.
Yes, sir.
Scottish Rite is a hospital. They offer trainings and different things like that for teachers and educators. Through you learning all this information to help other people, you got an aha moment. What was the aha moment that you got at Scottish Rite regarding dyslexia?
Well, that I finally, I think I maybe truly believed that I was dyslexic. But I tell you, I've also learned, I've learned how to spell. I'm 41 years old and I'm learning how to spell. And I'm sorry for all you Texans, it is oil and not oil, but I'm learning that and things of that nature. And the confidence in an area where I've always felt less than or embarrassed by or shoot fire, I'm not putting that up there. I am not typing, I'm not writing, nothing like that. I feel the confidence to do that. And so not only have I learned how to help the kiddos, but I mean, it's also helped me going through this therapy as well, for sure.
How did it feel? So you kind of put the dots together that, hey, I'm dyslexic. Did you look back in time in life and like, okay, now everything makes sense?
Oh, absolutely,
now.
Absolutely. And there's 2 other women that I went through this past 2 years with, and I'm sure they would tell you that I'd be like, "This is me. What do you know?" The whole time we're trying to learn, and I'm over there having this awareness moment. Like I said, it's helped me just on my own, you know, professionally, everything.
Finding out, putting all the dots together that you're dyslexic. Did that give you even more confidence and self-esteem or anything like that internally for you? Or
I would say absolutely.
Okay.
As far as how to overcome it, or how to deal with it properly. Maybe not overcome's the word.
Okay.
How to get through it properly. How to do it. So now I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna write on that wall. You know, if we're doing a staff building thing, I'll write on that poster. Give me that pen. But it also has helped me relate to kiddos. We talk all the time in class. There's a book called Brilliantly Dyslexic, and it's about all of these famous people from different walks of life and how they were dyslexic and how they overcame it.
Yes.
And we talk about that, and then they're like, Miss Poor, or I'll make a mistake, and they're like, oh, Miss Poor's dyslexic. I sure am, baby. Let's erase and start again, right? And I just think that they can see. We talk all the time. I'm like, guys, I got 2 degrees. You know, you can do this too.
Yes.
You know, you can be anything that you want to be. And so, but I think it's also helped me be able to relate, but it's also helped me to normalize it and also help them overcome how they're feeling as well.
Okay. So I have my book here of Miss Ashlee Poor. She's a professional, 2 degrees, entrepreneur, advocate. So this is your book, The Letters That Danced. And one of your characters in the book is Petunia.
Yes, Petunia.
I would like for you to tell us who is Petunia and how did Petunia help you write this book? So
I'm ed tech. That's my passion. And so I always thought it would be super cool if I could write a book, right? I never told anybody my dream. I didn't tell my husband. I didn't tell anybody my dream of writing this book because I kind of thought, well, you know, it's silly. You can't spell. You sure can't write. How are you going to write a book? And so I always toyed with it when the kids were younger, and then never came to fruition. Nothing. It was just kind of, or we'd get busy and I'd forget about it. And so about the time I started teaching the 6th grade reading, I had a couple of dyslexic kids, and I knew I wanted to write it over dyslexia. I wasn't even thinking about becoming a therapist at this point. But I always tried to write it as like a superhero. Dyslexia saved the day, or, you know, something along those lines. And it never flowed from me. It was hard. It's like, this is, you know, I'd get frustrated. I'd stop. Then I'd be like, man, I want to do it. Or I'd have some time. I'd play with it a little bit. So Petunia and Cutie Pie were. My daughter is a dairy. Both of my kids showed dairy heifers. We showed Jerseys, and my daughter shows Brown Swiss, which is what Petunia is. And so they're 5th generation dairy farmers. And so that's been our life. The kids, those are their cows. That's what my husband did. And so those are her animals. And so we were out there one day, and Petunia she is the nosiest animal I think I've ever met in my life. So if you're out in the pasture, she's coming up there with you. And so I thought, we were talking about how, like, she was nosy and she was always in our business and things like that, and how they were, and I think it was my husband that said, they're like people. And I was like, well, there you go. There's my story right there. And then I thought, well, kids love animals. So if I could write a story about dyslexia and animals, I've got a story. Played with the idea. I came back and started kind of writing a few pages. And then I started thinking about how I felt. And that's when it kind of poured out of me. It was very therapeutic to put it out there. In the book, it talks about how Cutie Pie couldn't read. They were having barn school, and Cutie Pie realized that she couldn't read. And so, and how she felt. And I remember feeling embarrassed and shameful and my face turning red in class. And so I wrote about that in that book. And then Petunia is the one that kind of comes up and helps her and gives that confidence, and you know, learns how to overcome it.
So I'm pretty sure at this point you've been receiving feedback about your book. How does it feel, everything that you've gone through in life, and you write a book and now you're helping other kids and you're shaping their future?
It's kind of surreal. I'm very proud of it. I'm probably going to get emotional. I'm very proud of it. Just with somebody with dyslexia, that, you know, just a struggle to be able to tell, and to be able to tell parents that, you know, it's okay.
Yes.
Like, we're going to get there.
Yes.
I'm very proud of that. That's the feedback that I think resonates the most with me. You know, of course I'm proud of everything, but just the, you know, hey, my kid's dyslexic, and she read your book, and one of the parents told me she was reading it and she was like, "Me too, cutie pie, me too." And I was like, that is the most special thing in the same. And where, so I want kids to be able to read it and see themselves.
Yes.
I want them to also understand that they can learn.
Yes.
I want parents to know that they can help their child, because I think as parents, a lot of times they feel helpless.
Yes.
And so I think this story tells that pretty well.
Okay, you kind of alluded to this earlier, but I kind of stopped you, but I think this is going to be a good place to end. When you were younger, it was a pastor at a summer camp talking about a door that was open. I want you to explain that.
So I went to summer camp with a Baptist church. I was 8 or 9, I think it was here, local Texas. I don't remember where it was. But I remember in that sermon that he had said, God's only going to open so many doors for you. He's only going to say, hey, you know, come here, wave his hands at you, get your attention. But then after so many times, he's going to shut the door and move on, because that was the choice that you made, the freedom of choice. And so you have to take the opportunities when they're given to you. And so I remember when Hope was asking me to come work for her, and I told her no 2 times, and she's coming to me again. At that moment, I remembered that sermon, and I truly believe that I was the Lord waving his hands and saying, you gotta walk through this door. I was scared. I didn't believe it.
Yes.
Even though I said yes, I was like, okay, sir, let's see what you can do. But it has been, the past 2 years have been probably the best for me professionally. As far as learning a lot about myself, as well as finding my niche in this world of education.
Yes.
And I can do it, and then I can help the kids do it. And it also, you know, opened the door for my book. I don't think if I had gone through this, I don't think the book would have ever came to fruition. And so, you know, I would say to anybody, you know, don't pass up an opportunity. You only get so many. And it's scary, and it's you may not trust it, but looking back, you know, every part of my path has been a journey, but it's been on that plan to be where I'm at right now. And so, and I think that's a pretty special thing.
Miss Ashlee, you was in the 4th grade, couldn't read, couldn't spell. You go through that door, you learn, you memorize words. High school, into college, you have to take a year off. You come back, you go through that door. You go through the door of getting a degree, master's degree, training in Scottish writing a book. How do you feel being on the other side of these doors that you walk through?
Ooh, that's deep. I'm pretty happy. I mean, I think that it's been a good ride. I think that I was born to be a teacher. I didn't trust it at the time. I sure didn't want to do it. But I love coming to work every day. I love being around kids. I love the babies. I sure like to send them on their way. But I love my big kids. They still want to be loved and valued just as much as those babies do. They just don't want to show it. And I can relate to those kids. And so I think it's all kind of led me here.
Yes.
And I feel, I don't know, a little silly talking about myself in this way, but I just think everything happened for a reason,
Yes.
and I'm on a plan that's bigger than my own, and I'm enjoying the ride. I'm just going and seeing where the world takes me. So,
Still sticking with these doors and opportunities to walk through, what would you say to everyone that would see this video? People that are dyslexic, ADHD, and just people in general that have a chip on their shoulder. What would you say to them with opportunities for them to go back to school or to start a business or to move up on a job? What would you say to them?
oh, do it. Anything. I have a 24-year-old son, and he's going back to school, and so do it. I mean, life is too short, and you're only going to get so many chances to make yourself better. And why not? Why not grab it and live life to your fullest? Because you never know what opportunities are going to come from saying yes.
Right.
And you know, I was a small town poor girl that didn't think that I would do anything of this caliber, to this book, to be on a podcast.
Yes.
I mean, who would have thought, you know? But if I didn't say yes, then none of this would have ever came. And so I would just say, chase your dreams, and don't let anybody ever tell you you can't do something, because who are they? You know, I think it's important that no matter your age, you always learn.
Yes.
You always are going for the next thing. Your mind's always working for that bigger plan. Enjoy it, praise it, be thankful
Yes.
for it, and see what's next.
I have one more question. To the people that have gone through the doors, but it just seemed like nothing is happening, nothing is moving, what would you say to those people?
Don't give up. Because, like I said, I applied for 3 different jobs thinking I had a good shot at that ed tech world. And then I even went back and got a little bit more education and a little bit more training and all these things, and they still said no. There's a reason for that.
Yes.
And it hurts. My gosh, does it hurt. But it makes you stronger.
Yes.
And there's something bigger out there. And so you just got to give it time and keep chasing your dreams. And, you know, if one door is closing, then okay, so why? You know,
Yes.
do some self-reflecting and why, and move on. And so I could have kept chasing an
Yes.
ed tech degree, and
Yes.
I could have kept pursuing that. And I probably eventually would if Hope hadn't ever came in and offered me this job. But I don't think I would have been as happy as I am right now.
Gotcha.
So.
Okay. Well, Ashlee, thank you so
Yeah,
much for being
thank
on the
you.
podcast. We're going to continue to support everything that you're doing, and only onward and upward from here.
Yes, sir. Well, thank you for having me and this opportunity. I absolutely love it. So I really appreciate the
Okay.
time.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.